Here in Argentina, gender identity law passed in 2012. Its central point is that gender identity depends on self-declaration. So interested parties can request registration or self-declaration without any prerequisites. There is no any requirement, neither psychological nor medical. Furthermore, if the person requires some kind of intervention, hormonal or surgical, it will be carried out with informed consent and at no cost. Finally, to get comprehensive hormonal treatments, it won't be necessary to prove their consent to total or partial genital reassignment. The biggest problem of this law is the exposure of minors who can receive hormonal treatment or have surgeries based on their own discourses. Even if those who are responsible for those minors do not agree, because justice would intervene, forcing parents to comply with the law. The approval of this law lacked extensive social discussion and was the result of the lobbying power of supporters of queerism. Today, in Argentina, it's an ideological apparatus of Kirchnerism. The law was voted, and then an intense censorship campaign was carried out so that anyone who tries to discuss something will be accused of hate crime. Every feminist who is critical about gender is about gender as an ideology is accused of turf and banned from discussions and debates. Even I been threatened and told more than once that I would be beaten. In this way, Argentinian feminists have seen tens of years of struggles going back in different fields. One of them being sports, for example. Another one is politics. It has become increasingly common in the trade union sphere, political parties, and even the state that the women's representation is in secretariats and public offices are trans persons. So it's a real problem here. Besides, setback for women is very important in the media, where trans characters hold themselves up as an example of moral and suffering, relegating women's interests and struggles. However, the overrepresentation of trans people and even men in the women's movement is still more serious. In Argentina, the 8M March is considered a national event, just like the National Women's Meeting. Both gathers hundreds of thousands of participants. In both, disproportionate representations and presence of the trans population are now imposed to the detriment of women. There is enormous pressure on the National Women's Meeting to incorporate what the diversities demand. Moreover, now they want to change the name and add trans, transvestites, non-binaries, gays, fags, etc. to women. Since the demands of the feminist movement recede, the issue of abortion comes last in these spaces because it's considered as a matter of a privileged ones. A worrying trend created by the law is the disappearance of women toilets, for example. I think it happens all over the world where this law is working. It's considered discriminatory that there are baths according to sex here. The demand for sexy toilets in public spaces has gradually ceased. Women don't have the right to ask for safe spaces anymore. Thus, journalism does not share its organizations and institutions with anyone, but it aims to lead the women's movement. These colonizations needs erasure of women. They erase us when they say we have privileges and when they threaten us by accusing us of hate crimes. These actions are absolutely misogynistic and make it possible for men to do whatever they want. After all, no murder will be considered femicide if the criminal self-declares as a woman. The last political action, very serious and so unseen to most people, just like every step that queer ideology has been carrying out in Argentina, was the compulsory sexual assignment bill. It was proposed by an official deputy, and the law pretends the elimination of sex category in any documentation, whether public or private, since they consider that sexual assignment is compulsory and the sex category is false. In this way, women's movement is transforming itself into support of other interests, with a clear consequence, the strengthening of mass patriarchy that is a given heritage of feminism.